What you are about to hear is a reading of verbatim federal courtroom testimony related to the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press.
I took them to where the yacht came and picked them up at, and Puff said, I don't need no security because it was just personal friends getting on the yacht. And then I picked them up when the yacht came back, and I seen Kim nose up. And it was all around the office of everything that happened because his assistants were there, and they was talking about it. He tried to say that she hit a table, but everybody in the office...
As the trial continues, new revelations are erupting from the shadows, this time from Diddy's own former head of security. Roger Bonds has come forward, claiming he personally witnessed Sean Diddy Combs mistreating Kim Porter, the mother of 3 of his children. The silence is breaking, and the truth is getting harder to ignore by the minute, adding to the growing chorus of voices raising concerns about Diddy's alleged conduct. Another troubling account comes from a respected figure in hip-hop media. I've seen Combs act around Kim in many ways that were just awful and very mean, said Danielle Smith, the former editor-in-chief of Vibe magazine. Smith's words cut deep, not only because of her close ties to the industry, but because she had a front-row seat to the strained dynamic between Diddy and Kim Porter. Her account isn't speculation, it's observation. It paints a picture of emotional strain and pressure behind the glamorous facade. Coming from a journalist known for her integrity, this isn't just hearsay. It's a concern raised by someone who knows the game inside and out. With every new voice, the walls around Diddy's public image are beginning to shake. But Danielle Smith didn't just witness Diddy's behavior from a distance. She was close enough to feel the discomfort. She recalls nights out with Kim Porter that started with laughter and ended in confusion and tension. One moment, it was a carefree girls' night. Then Diddy would show up and completely shift the energy in the room.
Knew her well enough to occasionally socialize with her. It was a last-minute girls' night. Kim Porter and some other girlfriends. And then I see Puffy come into the club. I really thought he was coming in to get... I thought he was about to into the booth, and it was about to be...
What she describes isn't just awkward or cold. He yelled at Kim like she didn't matter, told her she didn't belong out enjoying herself. Then, in a move that stunned the entire club, he dumped her purse out in public like she was insignificant. No remorse, no hesitation, just a visible, public display of disregard. It wasn't just upsetting. It was an act meant to diminish her. That wasn't emotion. That was power misused and turned harmful. And Smith, like many others, is done pretending it was anything less. What Danielle Smith witnessed that night didn't need fists to be hurtful. It was emotional manipulation. The silence in the room, the shock on people's faces, the discomfort hanging in the air. It said everything. What Diddy did wasn't just about control. It was about asserting dominance.
He just turned on a dime. It was not a cool situation at all. He just thought to her, and she should be at home, not out. And then he grabbed her handbag and literally turned it upside down. He just emptied it out.
In a flash, the energy shifted. Diddy didn't just raise his voice. He tried to assert complete control. He screamed at Kim like she was property, not a partner. Told her she had no place enjoying herself. And then, right in front of everyone, he dumped her purse on the floor like she was nothing. What Danielle Smith saw that night didn't need fists to be violent. It was psychological warfare. The silence, the shock, the fear left in the air, it all spoke volumes. Diddy's actions weren't just about control. They were about domination.
I was so in shock. The reason people do things like that is just to you and make you feel small. Never saw him put a hand on her, but as we all know.
Smith breaks it down with unsettling clarity. This was about shame, discomfort, and emotional damage. It was a calculated move to embarrass Kim in public, to remind her who held the power. No one stopped him because no one felt safe enough. She didn't need bruises for the impact to be obvious. This kind of abuse is quieter, but just as destructive. It chips away at a person's confidence in front of an audience, then leaves him to recover alone. Smith may not have seen him physically harm Kim, but she saw enough to call it what it is. Harm isn't always visible, and Diddy knew exactly how to weaponize that. And now, with Diddy's actions under microscope, Gondil, a longtime insider, says people need to understand this behavior didn't come out of nowhere. He draws a disturbing line from Diddy's past to his present, pointing to the environment he was raised in and the people who shaped him.
A modeling, see, and it was also ladies of the prostituting too, or these ladies was doing things other than modeling. So the apple.
Gene doesn't hold back. He suggests that what we're seeing now might be generational. He claims Diddy's mother ran more than just a modeling agency, hinting at something troubling behind the curtain. If those claims are true, then control was a lesson learned early. This isn't a man who stumbled into influence. He was brought up in it, and not the polished, professional kind. This is gritty, deeply rooted influence built on secrecy. It puts Diddy's behavior into a different context, one that's rooted in legacy, not just ambition. Gene's message is direct. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and if that tree was already affected, it explains a lot about the fruit. Gene Deal isn't just hinting anymore. He's laying it all out, with the heat rising around Diddy. Gene turns the spotlight onto the one person Diddy seems to mirror most, his mother. He doesn't mince words, calling out the roots of Diddy's behavior and rejecting the myth that it came from his absent father.
I guess this is my newfound career, so I'm gonna say what's on my mind and what I think, brother. First of all, that's his mother. Wrong, indifferent, she gonna lie, steal, and protect her child. That's what she's supposed to do. But the apple don't fall far from the tree, man. You gotta realize that. You know, he didn't get all this from his daddy, because he didn't know his daddy, even though they try to say his daddy.
Gene makes it clear this wasn't learned from the streets or inherited from a so-called kingpin dad. He says Diddy's real influence came from home, from a mother willing to protect her son by any means. Lie, conceal, defend, whatever it takes. That kind of protection isn't support, it's enabling. And when a child grows up watching control, disguised as care, it sticks. Gene's not stirring drama. He's explaining the blueprint. The behavior we see today, it was shaped, reinforced, and normalized early on. And if you think Diddy's just a product of success, Gene wants you to look deeper into the household that raised him. Gene Deal takes it even further, stepping into territory that makes people uncomfortable for a reason. He describes things he saw and heard that made him question not just Diddy's behavior, but the strange dynamic between him and his mother. At this point, it's not just about influence, it's about dysfunction.
It has changed since I knew them, since I was around them. You understand? This man was talking about that his mother could take her and over and put him down on the floor. Not over, but she could stand straight up and put up on the floor, bruh. He's saying that about his mother. Who describes any of their mother action like that in a way? And then, you know, I don't know how many dudes do their mother and their when they 50, 60 years old or something like that. That's them, that's their whole thing, man. But that was a little.
Gene recalls Diddy making comments about his mother's appearance that felt off, very off. The kind of talk no grown man should ever say about his own mother, not even jokingly. It wasn't lighthearted, it was unsettling. He's not accusing, but he's not sugarcoating the discomfort either. And then there's the closeness, the gestures that just didn't seem right. Gene's been around a lot of families in the business, but he's never seen anything quite like that. To him, it wasn't just odd, it hinted at a deeper, more complex emotional entanglement. Gene Deal doesn't hold back. He takes the conversation to a disturbing psychological level. As more allegations from Cassie's lawsuit come to light, Gene connects the dots in ways that make you stop and reevaluate everything. The overlap between Diddy's alleged preferences and his relationship with his mother is too specific to ignore.
Plain white fingernail polish that Cassie described that he liked to see her and other models in when she was describing her lawsuit. And what's crazy to me is that, man, it seemed like him and his mother had this, I don't want to get too deep, man, this Oedipus complex thing. You know what I mean? And a lot of people going to say, yo, Oedipus complex.
Gene points out something that raises eyebrows. Diddy liked Cassie and other women to wear white nail polish. But that wasn't just a style preference. It's the same shade his mother wore. That detail, mentioned in Cassie's lawsuit, now feels more significant with Gene's commentary. He hints at something more personal, a psychological fixation between Diddy and his mother. He even uses a term that many avoid, an Oedipus complex. This isn't just about parenting anymore. It's about boundaries and deeply rooted behavior.
And both of them are getting IVs after one of the Diddy parties. Allegedly. I'm gonna say allegedly because I wasn't there and I didn't know. But they showed them both getting IVs on the couch. So my whole thing about this thing is that I'm not saying that she was ever at a off, she was ever at that type of party. But you can't tell me Miss Janice Combs, who was always at the regular parties.
Gene recalls seeing Diddy and his mother both getting 4 drips after one of his intense parties. He's not accusing her of involvement, but he's making it clear she was nearby, too close, too often, and far too aware to be uninformed. Janice wasn't some distant figure watching from afar. She was on the couch, in the house, post-event. And these weren't just gatherings. They were the kinds of nights people don't talk about openly. Just when you think the picture can't get darker, Gene Deal brings out another disturbing piece of the puzzle. The public sees polished clips of Diddy and his mother smiling for the cameras. But Gene says that image is a lie. Behind the scenes, he claims, the reality was way more toxic and violent.
Disrespect his mother. So I seen the love now that they have for each other only on film and camera. You know, on the YouTube or Instagram or wherever they were showing it and stuff like that. But this the same guy that Kirk Burrows once told me he s***ed his mother. And I told everybody, had I known he s***ed his mother after I told Kirk Burrows, Kirk told me after I straightened his out for mama out. His mother came in the limousine and he was on the phone and she said, yo, why don't you tell these people like that? And he just cleaned out like on some, didn't I tell you to stay out my business? And I was like, yo, I was shocked. She didn't say.
According to Gene, Diddy didn't treat his mother with the kindness he now puts on display. He says the warmth you see online is a performance. Gene even recalls hearing that Diddy once disrespected his own mother, something Kirk Burrell allegedly witnessed firsthand. And when Gene confronted Diddy about insulting her in a limo, she said nothing. She just absorbed it like it was normal. That silence? That's not peace, it's pressure. Gene Deal doesn't just expose the dysfunction. He also calls out directly to Diddy's face in a moment that shows just how deep things went. Gene shares how he personally confronted Diddy for the way he spoke to his own mother. What he said wasn't soft. It was a warning.
If you ever your mama again, I'm gonna beat the shit out you. You ain't gonna bring nothing but bad luck to us treating your mama like that. So I guess he ain't treating his mama like that no more. But I don't have no qualms in her defending her son. I don't have no qualms in her defending her son. You gotta understand that, man, Miss Janice Combs been around for a long time and she's a trendsetter.
Gene told him straight, disrespect your mother again and you're gonna get checked for it. Not just because it's wrong, but because it brings bad energy to everything you touch. He wasn't joking. He believed that kind of behavior brings negative energy, bad luck, and bad karma. Just when you think the allegations can't get more troubling, Gene Deal drops a revelation that takes it to a whole new level. He dives into the hidden side of Diddy's world. one that allegedly involved escorts control on a frightening scale. This isn't party gossip. It's dark, calculated, and deeply disturbing.
Puff had people do things, acts, buying, right? Paying for prostitutes, paying prostitutes, paying for bringing people and people, because we now know that the was not in the baby oil, it was in the eye drops. They was putting in the eye drops. So I guess that's where they was, putting in people drinks or whatever like that. But they would, because it's hard to see a little eye drop thing in your hand and you just go and throw a little somebody drink or whatever like that. You ain't definitely putting nothing in nobody's eyes and say, here, take this is gonna make you feel good. They was putting that in people drink. They found.
Gene claims Puff didn't just participate, he orchestrated it. From buying substances to paying for rest, nothing was left to chance. But the most shocking part? The method. He says the substances weren't in baby oil, as some speculated. They were hidden in eye drops, tiny, discreet, and easy to slip into drinks without anyone noticing. That detail isn't just surprising, it's tactical, intentional, designed to leave no trace. According to Gene, this wasn't some reckless lifestyle. It was a controlled operation. And if true, it points to something far more dangerous than just fame-fueled excess. It's cryptic planning masked as celebrity culture. Gene Deal keeps digging into the disturbing details of what really went on behind closed doors. And this time, he's targeting the illusion. While the media and public were distracted by rumors about baby oil, Gene says the real method of tampering was far more discreet and much more dangerous. But the obsession with visuals and control, that part was real.
Never even knew that or noticed that. And they had us thinking that it was the baby oil. But they haven't said anything about the baby oil. But I just can't imagine they say they took 1,000 bottles of baby oil out of there and nothing. But they said he liked things that was real.
Gene says people were fooled into thinking the baby oil was the key. But that was just a distraction. It was never about the oil. It was about illusion, about keeping people distracted. He points out how 1,000 bottles were found, yet no real explanation was given. And according to him, Diddy wanted everything to look a certain way, shiny, staged. That's not just a vibe. It's psychological theater meant to impress and disarm. But behind that glitz, Gene says darker things were happening. Things the public wasn't supposed to see. He's pulling back the curtain on the theatrics, exposing a pattern of misdirection. Because in Diddy's world, it wasn't just about appearances. It was about control, secrecy, and deception. Gene Deal takes the chaos from Diddy's private residences and drags it into public spaces, exposing what really went down in those so-called hotel parties. He says it wasn't just wild behavior. It was premeditated, damaging, and deliberately covered up using fake names and shady tactics. What the public saw as luxury, hotel staff saw as a recurring problem. 1757/18:37. According to Gene, hotel managers were brought in to testify, and their stories were intense. Diddy allegedly used aliases to book rooms, but everyone in the system knew who it really was. Each time, it was the same outcome: damage, mess, and costs ranging from $500 to $1,000. These weren't accidents, they were patterns, and hotel workers reportedly dreaded cleaning up the aftermath because the scenes were extreme. Gene Deal doesn't just describe wild parties. He paints a scene straight out of a horror story. The man says what happened in those hotel rooms wasn't just intense. It was deeply troubling. From plastic kiddie pools to unbearable heat, he paints Diddy's setups as not just excessive, but inhumane. 1916 to 2004. Gene claims Diddy would haul in kiddie pools, the kind you'd see in a backyard, and fill them with baby oil. But that wasn't the end of it. The hotel heat would be cranked up to 85 or 90 degrees. turning the rooms into sweatboxes. Still, that wasn't enough. Gene says they even brought in extra heaters to raise the temperature more. The air would be thick, suffocating. People could barely breathe. Gene Deal takes it a step further, breaking the illusion that these troubling hotel scenes only involved Cassie or were isolated to Diddy alone. He exposes what many suspected, but no one dared to confirm. This wasn't just about one victim or one man. It was a system, and it was bigger than anyone imagined. 2042 to 2110. Gene says hotel staff revealed that Cassie wasn't always the one involved. There were other women, different names, different faces, but the same extreme setup. And here's the twist. Diddy wasn't always the one running the show directly. Sometimes it was others operating under Bad Boy banner, keeping his name out of the paperwork. That's not chaos, that's calculated distance. A way to enjoy the access while staying clean on paper. What do you think? Was this all hidden in plain sight? How long did people know? But stay quiet. Do you believe this was just Diddy, or was a whole system protecting him? Is this the fall of a mogul, or just the beginning of a much deeper investigation? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tune in for more videos like this.